From Jesse Waters, Tulsi Gabbard says that 100 plus intelligence officials involved in the deep state sex chat will have their security clearances revoked. Let's play the clip now. Apparently this just aired.
Well, Jesse, what we're going to do has already been done. There are over 100 people from across the intelligence community that contributed to and participated in this, what is really just an egregious violation of trust, what to speak of like basic rules and standards around professionalism. I put out a directive today that they all will be terminated and their security clearances will be revoked.
Let's go,
but
Tulsi.
the thing here, Jesse, is like, we got to take a step back because this is just barely scratching the surface. When you see what these people were saying, and thanks to Chris Rufo for putting it all out online, they were brazen in using an NSA platform intended for professional use to conduct this kind of really horrific behavior. And they were brazen in doing this because when was the last time anyone was really held accountable? Certainly not over the last 4 years, certainly not over the last 10, maybe 20 years. When we look at some of the biggest violations of the American people's trust in the intelligence community. So today's action in holding these individuals accountable is just the beginning of what we're seeing across the Trump administration, which is carrying out the mandate the American people gave him. Clean house, root out that rot and corruption and weaponization and politicization, so we can start to rebuild that trust in these institutions that are charged with an important mission of serving the American people, ensuring our safety, security, and freedom.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's got to go further.
We got action from the government. This is something we never would have seen under the Biden administration.
Absolutely.
These individuals who are clearly look. I just want to make sure this is understood by everybody. The same people who demand we get these workplace sexual harassment seminars where they tell you can't do this, we're literally doing it.
And they're the same ones.
And let me just say, somewhat figuratively, what I mean is, it is these left liberal types who are screaming out inequality, oppression, and intersectional whatever and what's it, which would their policies would ban the behaviors they're engaged in, and they do it anyway. Mm-hmm. And now they're all fired, and they should be, and they've got their clearances revoked. They're never going to work intelligence again.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, it needs to go further than this because now we have to look at who did they target. These people had these security clearances, these top-level security clearances. Who were they going after? Who were they pulling dirt on? I mean, you see, like Libs of TikTok, Kaya Rychik was specifically mentioned in one of these weird sex chats.
Really?
Yeah. And so they have this pretty much unfettered access to, I mean, you've seen what the intelligence community is capable of and tapping people's cell phones, digging into their emails and
going after parents.
Right. That needs to be investigated. Right. Who did they target? If they're calling Kaya Rychik a terrorist, and if they believe that, what did they do to her? Were they reading her emails? Were they reading her text messages? They had the ability to. Yeah, that needs to be investigated. And if they did, jail.
It's been true across the board, and it's been such a short period of time that the Trump administration has been clearing house over here in this area. They're dealing with the FBI. People have already been reassigned. Mm-hmm. The IRS agents are looking at being reassigned. You know, today you had this wild thing in the White House where the press secretary said that the White House Correspondents Association, basically like the press pool, would be taken over by the White House, and they wouldn't let the rot in that organization keep seeping in, you know, and that's actually all because of Kevin over here, who's coined Gulf of America, and then the next thing you know, all hell breaks loose. The AP gets banned, and the White House Correspondents Association doesn't even have any standing in the White House anymore.
Amazing!
It's amazing, but they're clearing everything out.
Well,
how did you feel about that, Kevin, when you found out that not only did the AP get banned, but the entire way that the press organization is working at the White House has changed, all because of the Gulf of America?
It feels incredible, honestly. Yeah, I mean, it's just the domino meme, you know, me on a wave runner, and now all of a sudden, everybody has to put an application in to get in the White House press briefing.
Well, at this point, you know, you see the signs, and so the White House Correspondents Association went we stand with the AP. They were putting up signs in the briefing room saying that. It's like, okay, yeah, go stand with AP on the sidewalk. You can report from outside.
It's been 2 weeks. It's been 14 days. I looked it up, since they've been allowed in,
But
in county.
people don't understand this. They're like, oh, well, why doesn't somebody like Nick Sortor, why doesn't Tim Pool have a spot in the White House briefing room? Well, that's because up until now, it was controlled by the cartel known as the White House Correspondents Association. And controlled by the left wing. I think the chair, I believe, is like I think she's a reporter for NBC.
And the argument that you always hear is, oh, well, this is an attack on free speech, which is the same argument they make when you talk about getting rid of books that are sexually explicit in schools. But just like that argument, curation and deciding who is and is not allowed in is not a limit on free speech. It is just a limit on the space inside of the room. If the administration decides that they don't want to let this particular organization in, they have every right to do that because they exclude hundreds and probably thousands of press organizations from actually being able to access the White House
Well,
press
the
room.
Biden administration, you remember them? Like, we'd never see any of this stuff if it was still Joe Biden.
We never see Joe Biden either.
Well, we
Did they
didn't
sue
see
over
Joe
that?
Biden either? But like, do you remember Joe Biden would stand there, and when he did take questions, how many times did he take questions from the press? Like 4 or 5 times in his entire 4 years.
Maybe
It was a
as he was
train wreck
walking
each
by
night.
into the house or off the
Right.
helicopter.
But when he did actually take questions, he had a list of people that he would read from, and he'd be
That's
like,
right,
"Oh, you with the
pre-selected
AP." Pre-selected questions, pre-selected reporters.
Yeah. And then if he'd go off that and like choose somebody, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble. They're gonna yell at me.
And it's not a law. It's not a law. It's a policy in the White House.
So AP is suing, obviously, the Trump administration over lack of transparency or whatever, but they never took any legal action against Joe Biden for banning everybody from
Biden banned
Oval
400.
Office.
What was it, like
keep in mind,
440
too,
people?
the
He pulled.
AP was quick to follow on policy when they changed the name from Kiev to Kyiv.
Right,
know?
right.
They're quick to make policy changes on that, but not.
A mom to inseminated person. I mean, that's fake
the
news if I've
Wisconsin
ever heard
thing.
of it.
That is such trash.
Yeah.
Natural parent instead of father.
But they have an entire, it's like called the AP style book, and it's like cancer. You can go in and read it, and it is just the most
You
woke
capitalize
garbage.
black and white.
Anyway,
right, but
Yeah. No,
back to the
black and not white.
intelligence
Lowercase white.
Yeah, exactly.
which I don't know how that segue happened. But we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard firing a bunch of people, and I'm curious with her as director of national intelligence saying she's going to fire 100+ people. I'm wondering if the move that Elon, Trump, Kashdan, and many others may make next is going to be targeting the most minute of reasonable cause firings. That is, anything anybody has done that is cause, you're fired.
Hopefully. I mean, look, if you're going to actually make significant cuts, you have to fire people, and you have to have cause to fire people. So they're probably going to say, look, you have broken this rule, this rule, this rule. I mean, it's just like when a company starts like having a pattern of behavior, they'll start looking for if they want to get rid of you, they're going to look for little things to say that you've done. When they get enough that they feel they can actually bring you in front of HR, they bring you into HR, said, look, these things you've done, and those things might get overlooked with anyone else. They might be no reason or no big deal, but if they decided that they want to fire you for whatever reason, they come up with as many reasons as they can, so that way
This
they have.
is pretty egregious, though.
Absolutely,
I mean, I have to
yes.
say, if I discovered something like this happening at my organization, I'd be like, "Hey, you're all out."
100%, but that's not the point. The point is, like Tim said, if they're going to be looking for all of the little reasons, that's exactly how they're going to have to come up with justification.
Right.
Because right now, you end up with lawsuits, and you end up with unions trying to defend people. So you have to have as many reasons, as many small reasons as possible, so that way you don't have to answer for every individual person that gets fired or to a court, which I think eventually it's going to end up in front of the Supreme Court anyways. And the question at hand, which we've talked about on the show multiple times, does the executive have the authority to fire people or not? And according to Article 2 in the Constitution, the executive does.
Because the
Did you
agencies
see
all
that-
come under, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that viral post from that woman where she claimed the DOJ was the legislative
Right, what was up with that?
judicial control.
Yeah,
Idiocy.
totally
She has
ridiculous.
Mike Cernovich tweeted, "Where in the Constitution does it say that the executive doesn't have control of the DOJ?" And this PhD woman responds, "Oh my God, they're so dumb. I can't believe they'd repost this. It's right here." And then posts about judicial controls, making the argument that the Department of Justice is under the judiciary, which it is not. It's an executive branch. And then insults Mike Cernovich, saying, "You're getting your news from a juice salesman." And I'm like, see, this is where liberals are. They're like, I have been given a piece of paper, so I'm smarter than you. And it's like, okay, well, you're not. You were wrong, and this is terrifying that you live in this world. But these are communists. Not all of them, but these are the people who live in rigid hierarchical authority structures where if a person has a degree, they're better than you. That's the way it works. It's like, could you imagine what it must be like to be a liberal where you like sit down and you go, I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, so I propose we do it this way. And he goes, I have a master's. And they go, oh, I'm sorry. It's like, listen, we're going to go over the proposals. Just because you have a degree doesn't immediately just give you the authority to say it. Because otherwise, these people with PhDs are some dumb MFers.
Yeah. And it's frustrating because there's so many people that are looking to, like we were talking about earlier, just like be able to say, oh, look, we got to dunk on Musk or dunk on any other person in the administration. It's all for ideological reasons. They have no desire to actually do something that benefits people. They think, oh, if we can just keep people in these positions, it's good for everybody, when clearly it's not. It's only good for people with a certain ideological disposition. So I don't think that I don't think that there's anything that we're going to be able to do about it other than do as much firing as possible. Kevin O'Leary was on CNN the other day, and they were apoplectic that he was saying this, but he was saying cut. And it's okay if you cut too much because you can always rehire people. You can always find people to fill those positions. But cut as much as you can while you're cutting.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.